When I first came to France, I was confused about everything, and I decided that I wanted a chicken for dinner. And there are 3 different kinds of chickens. There are yellow chickens, white chickens, and black chickens. Yellow chickens and white chickens cost the same. These both cost €5, 39 centimes per kilogram. Black chicken costs almost twice as much. It costs $10.39 a kilogram. I looked on the internet to try to figure out what the difference was, and well, one's supposed to grow faster. I'm pretty sure it's not the black one. And one's supposed to be fattier. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the yellow one, but we'll see. We're going to measure it. So I thought we would check their weights. They're all about the same, but we'll check them against what they're posted and make 3 different simple chicken stocks with them and see what we get. So, grab a cutting board. I think I'm going to want to weigh them to make sure that what it says is true. Start with our black chicken. Chickens come trussed up the old-fashioned way here. And it's not unusual to find a feather. Normally I just cook the chicken whole. I don't even untruss it, even if I'm making stock. But I don't have 3 big pots, so I'm going to have to use smaller pots. I think there's going to have to be a knife sharpening video pretty soon. I'm going to weigh it with these guts, but I'm going to wash them. 138.6 grams, and it was advertised at 138.6 grams, so that's pretty good. And this is actually the biggest chicken by a few grams, so I'll put it in my biggest pot. Next I have my white chicken. $128.8 grams, and it was advertised at 129.5. 128.8, so I'm going to make a note of that. My smallest chicken, so I hope it's going to fit in this pot. No problem. My yellow chicken. This is the most common. This is what you usually see most often. Although almost everywhere you'll see a choice between white and yellow. This one has the least feathers. 132.7, and it was advertised at 133, so we'll call that even. I'm going to want to measure how much fat is on each chicken. So therefore I need to use the same amount of water in each stock. So that's 1 2/3 pitchers in each pot. I'd like to have a little more, but this small pot, that's all it's going to handle. So it's just the way it's going to be. So we'll let those cook. Probably that's going to be a finish up tomorrow kind of a deal. We're going to pick the chickens. We're going to taste the chickens, and we'll see which one we like the best. Then we'll can the stock. We'll try to reduce it equally, and then we'll see which one is the fattiest just by measuring the fat after it cools. Here's some stock I made yesterday. And you see nice level of fat right on the top. Chicken meat is almost a byproduct around this house. I actually need the stock for a whole lot more things I cook with than I do just the chicken meat. That's all good. Hey, we're back. Chicken stock is ready. It's time for the next step. I'm going to strain it, pick it, can the stock, weigh the meat, kill the heat. Start with the white. Let's see, can you see that? You know, it's going to be a little warped on the GoPro, but at least you can get an idea of what's going on. So this one is actually my canner, so I need to do it next. I like to strain my stock. Whites in the front. It's just like a 1950s American bus. Now for our yellow. I was probably a lot better at this when I was poor because I was hungrier and I wasted less meat. So this isn't going to be exactly scientific, but it is going to be practical. So what we're looking for here is what the yield's going to be, what the practical yield's going to be. And I'm probably going to be about the equally amount of lazy on all of these. If I had a dog, this would be a really great treat for him or her. There, a piece went flying. I will tell you, this one is plenty fatty. All the stock is working. You probably hear it in the background. So I have 2 different canners going with 3 different jars of stock in it. Okay, that's our white chicken done. White chicken says it's 511 grams. Let's make sure this pink one weighs the same. No, not quite. Tear it off. And this is our black chicken. This one's interesting. It's a little different. It's not nearly as tender. I'm having to work a little harder to pull it off the bones. I mean, a little of that's because it's cooled a little more, but it's still warm. So this being tougher to pull off the bone probably means I'm going to get a lower yield, but we'll see. Remember, this one costs twice as much as well. So the skin is a lot harder to separate from the meat. And I suspect that's because there's less fat in it. But we'll know better after we canned and cooled it. Yeah, I'm really not going to get a great yield because this is just too hard to pull off and I'm too lazy to work for it. And the chickens didn't all weigh exactly the same, but we'll do a yield analysis on all of this. Finally, a tender part. Yeah, it's really interesting how the skin really wants to stick to the meat and it comes across piece in patches. I'm not believing this, but it's 537 grams on that one. The other one, the white one, was 511 grams. And again, because it was so hard to do, probably could have gotten even more. Our yellow. See how the skin on the whites and the yellows just kind of falls right off. Yeah, the black one was definitely hard, which tells me I won't be making stock out of the black ones very often because the meat's too hard to yield. But if it tastes better, that might make a better roast chicken. So I took an actual paying job for about 6 months this summer. And I spent all the money on new camera equipment and microphones and stuff like that, including the camera that this footage is being filmed on, which I really like. But I've got to turn it on while I was straining the stock. So there's a little bit of GoPro footage of that, but it's a lot easier when I was just shooting this on a couple of GoPros because there wasn't very much to remember. 523 grams, so kind of in the middle. But I believe it was a little bigger than the white to begin with. It was interesting. I finished all the stocks, I chilled them down in the refrigerator so you can start to see that the fat is collected at the top. I tasted all 3 different chickens, and my wife tasted them as well. I'm actually going to measure this and do this as a percentage, but for now I can just tell you that the yellow chicken is by far the fattiest. The black chicken is the leanest, and then the white chicken is, well, kind of in between. And I'll measure it because there's not an equal volume in all of them. I'll measure it and do it as a percentage of the volume that's actually fat. And we'll figure out exactly what it is. But the yellow is definitely the fattiest and the black is definitely the leanest. Now usually with meat, having fat in it gives it more flavor and gives it a better flavor. But both my wife and I, tasting the meats blind, I'll bring them over here so you can see them. You can tell that one of them is very different. The black one is very different. Remember, that was the leanest stock. And it was the hardest to bone as well. But it has really the best flavor. I don't know if it's twice as good because it was twice as expensive. And it definitely was not twice as good, but it is noticeably better. I thought the white was a little better than the yellow, and the yellow was the blandest. But remember, the yellow was actually the fattiest, and the white was the medium one. So it seems like with chicken, the less fat, the better flavor you get. Of course, this is just poaching it. So it might be that roasting it, or grilling it, or sauteing it would taste different entirely. Well, yeah, I'm going to call that a good place to pause today. Thanks a bunch.